Write a polynomial function in minimum degree, so we don't know what the degree is, in standard form with real coefficients whose zeros included those listed. So we have I and negative I. Class, what's the conjugate of I? Negative I. It's already listed, right? It kind of already showed us the imaginary friend, so we don't have to find it. So count with me. Ready, set, go. 1, 2. That's it. Let's name our polynomial. I don't know why. I don't want my students to get an F. So they always call them f of x. And what we're doing is, if you think about it, we're kind of going backwards. Before I gave you this huge polynomial, and then you would have to use rational roots theorem, you would use factoring methods, and you would get down to those zeros, right? We're kind of going reverse now. I've given you the zeros. We're trying to create this huge polynomial. And we've kind of already done that before with this factored or intercept form back in quadratics. Do you remember that? Just say yes and make me happy. Okay, so what do? We're just going to put the I and the negative I in here. So I'm going to have, so I just basically put in my zeros into the binomial. And I have x minus I, and this one's going to read what? X plus I. Now, class, would we be foolish just to multiply the first terms and last terms? No. You can use double distributing. I'm just going to use a box. Let's see if today's lesson in boxes are super helpful. Now we're going to put them on the outside of the box, and they call this area model, so we're going to multiply first, and then we're going to add. Class, x times x, x times I. Now it does not matter what order you put it in. If you chose IX, it's not wrong, but just whatever order you use, keep picking for the rest of the problem. Class, x times negative I. And negative I times I. Negative I squared. Okay. Let's go through some really quick review. With your partner, see if you guys can come up with these two kind of basic ideas. What is I equal to, and what is I squared equal to? Take 20 seconds. Ready, set, go. Class, I is equal to? Square root of negative 1. Raise your hand if you got that. Okay, what does I squared mean? The answer is negative 1. Okay, so let's just say you didn't understand that. I squared basically means I times I. So if I said I equals square root of negative 1, you have the square root of negative 1 times the square root of negative 1. They have the same radical. They have the same index. So essentially you have the square root of negative 1 times negative 1. Or negative 1 squared. Well, the index, so this number out here, is the same. So they essentially cancel, as someone just said. And then you're just left with negative 1. So that was just a really quick review of I and imaginary numbers. So these are some math facts. Go ahead and put those on your formula sheets. That is okay. So let's zoom back in after this problem. Class, if I know that I squared is equal to a number? Negative 1. I have the opposite of negative 1, which is positive 1. Okay, so what does this mean for our problem? I I have x squared. Now, this is going to get complicated later, so let's just try simple stuff. I like to put a little check mark in my box to know that I've touched the box. Okay? We've multiplied, now we are adding. If I add these two together, what do you get? -1 and the positive 1 is 0. I touch the box, I'm going to check. And then negative opposite of I squared is equal to positive 1. What is our polynomial to minimum degree? It is x squared plus 1. So back in the day, we might have said, oh, this is not factorable. The answer is actually it is. Now you have this idea you can actually factor it. When we did it in the previous problem, if you get, subtract, set it equal to 0, subtract 1, take the square root, plus or minus I. Well, now you can put the plus or minus I into the interceptor factored form.